That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about The Ice Road. It's a new season, so we have a new B grade, Z grade Liam Neeson thriller. Netflix is releasing June 25th, 2021, directed by Jonathan Hensleigh.
Do we know Jonathan Hensleigh's other work?
He's probably more notable as a screenwriter. He wrote Armageddon, for instance, and Die Hard with a Vengeance. As a director, he did The Punisher and Killed the Irishman prior to this.
Okay, the basic story is there is a mine in Canada somewhere.
Winnipeg.
Manitoba. And there's been an explosion, like a methane explosion, which has trapped many miners.
I think 26.
And in order to get them out, a special drill bit is required.
An 18-foot, yes.
I mean, it's a big drill bit.
Gas well head.
Okay, so they don't have it on site. It needs to be brought up. So some officials go to Laurence Fishburne's character.
Goldenrod. Jim Goldenrod.
To say, hey, can you get us some truckers to get this shit up here? And he's like, are you crazy? The season ended in March. It's April. So these fools are 5 weeks into their vacation. They're not even in the state. Number one. Number two, the roads are treacherous because the ice is starting to melt. And then he gives this film likes to give facts so that the audience understands what's happening. So he's explaining the weight of things won't work, blah, blah, blah. So the official's okay, well, sorry I asked. And then Mr. Goldenrod is well, hold on. I know all those miners up there, so this is personal. So let's say I can make it happen. Are we down? And the guy's yeah. So
the guy, you're talking about the Canadian official?
The Canadian official's yes.
Played by Matt McCoy.
Whatever you need, we'll make sure it happens. Matt McConkey from Homophilia.
Matt McCoy from The Hand That Rocks the Cradle.
No, the kid who comes to see Laurence Fishburne. Remember the kid?
Yes. Okay.
That's what I was talking about.
Matt McCoy is the...
No, we'll get into him.
Okay.
So, Laurence Fishburne, he wants 3 trucks to go up to offer some sort of redundancy in case one of the trucks goes down. So each truck will have the drill bit. So it's him driving a truck, Liam Neeson and his brother.
Gurty, played by Marcus Thomas. And yes, Gurty is also the name of Drew Barrymore in E.T. Spelled differently, of course.
And then another woman named, what's her name, Amber?
Tantoo.
Oh, Tantoo.
Played by Amber Midthunder.
And she's invested...
I can't believe you didn't remember that name. Tantoo.
No. And she's invested because her brother is one of the miners who she believes is stuck in the mine. Okay, so they get themselves together when all of a sudden Abraham Lincoln vampire killer...
Varnay, played by Benjamin Walker.
He says he's an actuary for the insurance company and he needs to ride along, which makes no sense, but here he goes. So they're off and immediately there's a problem. There's some ice cracking and a truck goes down and Laurence Fishburne's truck is down and Laurence Fishburne's character's dead.
Well, his truck stalls.
Right, so it goes down, he's done. Then the other 2 trucks are trying to run from the cracking ice and they end up flipping over. And the actuary introduces the idea that maybe Tantoo is the one responsible for Laurence Fishburne's truck stalling. So now they have bound her so they can keep an eye on her. But then the gag is the actuary, he does work for the minery, but he's there to make sure the tools don't get to the mine. Because they don't want these miners saved. Because the mine has been paying the miners to cut corners and not, do safety checks or whatever.
Their methane sensors were...
Which seems so crazy.
Deliberately turned off, and it was a methane bubble that caused...
But I didn't understand why they were saving so much money turning off those sensors.
Well, the miner... So Holt McCallany is he's Lampard. He's the head of the miners stuck down there, and... Through all of these scenes, we learn that the miners in the know are getting paid $100 a month extra. That's it.
Right, but I'm asking, why was it worth it for these sensors to be turned off?
I'm not sure.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense to me. Are they saving millions of dollars by turning off methane sensors and putting themselves at risk? That wasn't well explained. But blah blah blah. They obviously make it to the mine with the tools, but in the process, vampire killer gets killed, and Gurty, Liam Neeson's brother, dies. So now it's just Liam Neeson and Tantoo who make it, and then they save the day with like seconds to spare. The end.
Yeah.
That was rough.
It was very tedious to sit through. The second act is, I thought, kind of painful. Well, because we're stuck after Laurence Fishburne goes down, we're really stuck in that one vicinity, I'm not kidding, for 30 minutes or more. And it drags in those minutes. But also, it opens, it's incredibly awkward opening introduction to each character, particularly Marcus Thomas's Gurty, who's supposedly suffering from PTSD and aphasia, and who, as you had commented, is written to speak like Yoda. Aphasia
is a condition where people jumble their words, but the way this actor's playing him, he sounds like Yoda.
And it shows them getting fired because of his disability. These grown-ass men in North Dakota are taunting him and calling him the R word, and Liam Neeson defends him, and they're fired. And so then he tries to go drop his brother off at the VA, like to just leave him there. And if you've ever had to deal with the VA or have any knowledge of the VA, one, they don't move quickly, and two, they are not going to place you in a home.
Right, he just walks in and the doctor's like, well, the doctor will see you, and then they take him and...
the doctors take him in, they're like, we're going to do some tests on him to see if we can help him. Come back in an hour. And Neeson comes back and finds out that they tried to ply his brother with opioids, basically. Mr. Hensleigh, this is terribly written and not well researched, but...
Well, so there is a show on, I believe, the History Channel called Ice Road Truckers, which I have seen many episodes because I think it used to stream on Netflix maybe. That's pretty thrilling because I think, even though, every episode someone's not dying, it's just like the way it's shot and the sound and the visuals, like you get the sense of how dangerous it is. And I do think this film looks good, especially for what I consider I'm assuming is a lower budget.
Sure.
But going back to introducing these characters, we first meet Liam Neeson's character, like driving his big truck, listening to country music, and it just seems so off.
He might have listened to country music in The Marksman as well.
Also, his brother Gurty has a pet rat.
Yeah.
Which is just like, y'all are really trying to make this man seem special, but he's not special.
Who comes into play, the rat comes into play because Benjamin Varnay is basically he's taken down several times and comes back. He's like Robert Patrick in Terminator 2. But he's here squeaking in a bag, and he opens it and blindly sticks his hand in to be bitten by the rat. Which, among many other problems this film has, which I think should have been called tactical redundancy itself.
Oh. When the miners are... stuck and they start communicating and they get to a point where they say like oxygen is depleting, if we kill off some people then the rest of us will live longer. So of course there's like debate about it, and then one of the characters tells another character like, well, you're not going to make it, that compound fracture has sepsis in it. I thought the dialogue in this movie was so crunchy that even with more seasoned actors saying them, it still sounded dumb.
There's this in the beginning, even like throwaway lines, like Matt McCoy at the beginning is saying something like listen, like nothing. It's tinny, it was hokey, it was not good.
There are a few moments. Okay, when the Laurence Fishburne first goes down and then the other two are running to get away from the crack, they end up like flipping their rigs. So both trucks are on their sides. And somehow they get these trucks up. And I'm like, I don't understand how that happened. Then there's another point where there's a trailer stuck in a sinkhole and somehow they're able to like detach it. And I was very confused on the logistics and the physics of how some of these things happen. And I know that movies like this are supposed to be a little sensational, but I think combined with corny acting, bad dialogue, and unbelievable stories, and then watching Liam Neeson, like, there's a scene where he's chasing Abraham Lincoln, and it just looks like two old men like chasing each other for like a chess piece or something. Like I don't.
Benjamin Varney's not old.
No, but the way they were running.
Sure.
Because then in other scenes they're like able to jump into a moving like 18-wheeler. So it's like you have like use that same energy when you're chasing this man. Then there's like an avalanche that is caused to stop these trucks. There's just so much happening, which can be fun.
Sure.
Like it could be a raucous ride, but this felt tedious because it was just like everything that could go wrong goes wrong to get up to this mountain or mine. But again, because, you know, especially Liam Neeson is playing it more like serious.
Like he usually does?
Yeah, like I wish he would take the piss out of his performances and just realize like I'm in these shitty ass action movies.
Well, because he does have a career now that is very much like the last decade of Charles Bronson's. And, you know, if you go back and watch some of those Charles Bronson films, he does some deliberate things that he seems amused at himself that this is where we're at now.
They know Tantoo and Liam Neeson and his brother know very early on that like the actuary is not who he says he is and they're in trouble. And no one ever radios for help. But the radios work because they use them.
I don't know.
That bothered me a lot. Also, there are probably like 10 scenes where bad guys jump, like unlock, like open the door and jump in. And all I could think was like 18-wheelers don't have like door locks.
I don't know.
That bothered me a lot. That every time they get fucked up, it's because someone jumped into the cabin. I don't have anything else except poor Gurty. He ends up dying trying to help Tantoo cross the truck over the bridge to get to the mine, and he gets like smashed against a gate.
He gets smushed, yeah.
That was sad. But again, it's just like this shit is like just bloated with a bunch of nonsense that I can't say that I enjoyed it or even felt like anything except kind of bored.
Yeah, I was bored through most of it. Yeah.
I think maybe if you're like a semi truck driver, it might be fun to watch just so you can be like, that's not how that goes.
Sure.
Or if you're an ice road trucker, you might find it appealing. But
I think if I'm sure Mr. Neeson has his diehard fans and.
Well, I mean, I've watched almost all of his movies, I think, too, except that one about him robbing the banks.
Honest Thief.
Which did sound good to me. So I do think he can work.
Yeah,
But,
no, I don't.
But Marksman was terrible. I think this is slightly better than Marksman.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Also, there's like racism towards Tantoo's character who is
She's indigenous,
which I thought was very interesting. But there are fireworks going off, so we should wrap this up. What would you give this film?
1 out of 5.
I would give it 1.5 out of 5.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.